What's up, party people, and welcome back to another episode of NYC Foodways, your weekly food and culture discussion from the cultural capital of the world. My name is John, and this week's episode is dedicated to the life and legacy of radical theorist David Graeber, who always called it like he saw it. What does it take for us to be effective? And what does being effective take from us in return? In June of 2013, an interesting obituary appeared in the local paper. Maud Green, aged 47, had died. In less than half a century, Green accomplished a remarkable number of things. Among them, and there are many, he ran the New York City Marathon at 16, developed a free lunch program in Philadelphia that is still in place, and founded the ecologically minded, cooperatively operated Grenada Chocolate Company, the first artisanal tree-to-bar chocolate company to be set up in a cocoa-producing nation. In November of 2017, The New Yorker published a piece covering the revolutionary struggle in Kurdistan, where small, lightly armed units of the leftist Democratic Union Party's militia, also known as the YPG, had managed to successfully defend the city of Kobani from ISIS and ultimately expel ISIS from much of the surrounding area. In October of 2019, The New Yorker profiled landscape photographer Thomas Joshua Cooper. Cooper, who was blind in one eye, takes months-long journeys to the most remote regions on Earth in order to snap his photos, which are heralded by rich people and museums as some of the finest ever made. These seemingly disparate stories of a radical chocolatier, a group of militants, and a contemporary artist do have two key facets in common: their protagonists' effectiveness in pursuing their aims, and the steep interpersonal cost this effectiveness demands. Thomas Cooper, the landscape photographer, is married with 2 children. When his eldest daughter was 2 weeks old, he left home for an expedition. "I missed the entirety of my children growing up," says Cooper in the New Yorker article. "I was in the field for 18 years. Though Cooper dedicates most of his books to his wife and daughters, one of his daughters states that she knew intuitively, even as a girl, that his work had nothing to do with them, and later published an essay on the painful condition of being left behind. Back to Kurdistan for a moment. Many YPG fighters have vowed to never leave the YPG, marry, or have children, joining the ranks of many other orders of individuals, typically religious, who aspire to be fully devoted to a cause greater than themselves. Is it possible to live a life that does not make a mockery of your values? Maud Green, born David Friedman to 2 highly educated professionals, was raised on Staten Island and spent many winters on the island of Grenada where his father taught seasonally. An intellectual and kinetic force from the start, Green was accepted into MIT but chose to attend the University of Pennsylvania instead. He dropped out a few months before graduating, and the Times states that this was due to his belief that accepting a degree would be capitulating to a corrupt social structure, which strikes me as a fascinating stance to take. I would love to hear your thoughts on it the next time we cross paths. In his 20s, before moving full-time to Grenada, Green was highly active in radical circles in Philadelphia and later New York City, living on the margins, building, maintaining, and repairing the infrastructure of squatted buildings, setting up soup kitchens, and rescuing food from dumpsters in restaurants to be distributed to those in need. Green saw an unjust world and vowed to take whatever steps needed to be effective in changing it, including his key willingness to trade the comforts he had access to for a different type of experience. The experience of an unmediated life of direct action, that is, taking action to help others without the obsession with cushy self-preservation that is a keystone of life for the middle and upper classes. He saw injustice on the streets of Philadelphia, people going hungry while businesses threw out food, people living without homes while buildings lay vacant, and took the steps necessary to right what he felt were obvious and actionable wrongs. This put him at risk, of course, but no greater risk than people already going hungry or homeless were exposed to. And in being consistent in his action and completely dedicated to his cause, he became extremely effective. So effective that one of the free food programs he helped establish is still in existence. Green moved permanently to Grenada in the mid-1990s and founded the Grenada Chocolate Company in 1999. To make it a viable business took nothing more than single-minded determination, extreme discipline, consistent effort, the help of 2 trusted associates, and the absolute self-deprivation required for such an enormous task to be executed without heavy financial backing. The end result was an ecologically sound, economically empowering, locally based source of some of the finest chocolate in the world. Green's completely selfless endeavor resulted in a chocolate company that bought cocoa at high prices from local organic farmers, paid all of its factory workers the same generous wage, produced its energy from renewable sources, and even transported its bars to Europe using a sail-powered ship. Green slept in a cell-like storeroom in the factory, wore clothing until it was torn at the seams, worked non-stop, and clearly loved every minute of it. You could never. Is it possible to live a life that does not make a mockery of one's values, if one's values are in opposition to the dominant power structure that undergirds every facet of our existence? The answer depends largely on the lengths one is willing to go to be committed to one's values, lengths that often preclude the formation of a nuclear family unit. This is why those of us who desire extremely personal results often engage in personal extremism. Success in any project, whether it be internal or external, is limited only by the effort one is willing to bring to bear on it and the discipline and frequency of that effort. And that effort, by definition, will be reduced when one's energy is focused elsewhere, as it should be if one is interpersonally invested in others. So what does it take for us to be effective? And what does being effective take from us in return? In the documentary Nothing Like Chocolate, Green speaks at length on his unique condition as a sole practitioner, as it were. I will quote him here. "There are many times that I crave having a family, perhaps the thrill of raising a child someday. And it's funny, so many people I know envy me so much for not having that, the incredible freedom, being really much freer than most people are." He continues, "Intense loneliness is a byproduct, certainly a disadvantage of such a lifestyle. If I had a family, they might find that I was not around enough. I don't know. I think such a balance could be wonderful, could be created, but it's certainly been an advantage over the past 10 years that I've had this kind of freedom to pour in the 24-hour-a-day sort of schedule." Green mastered one of the most challenging acts known to our species, the act of giving fully and freely without expecting anything in return, not even a partner to share his life with. His activism was motivated by deep feelings of love for the earth, for his fellow humans, and he worked tirelessly not in pursuit of accolades or creature comforts, but in the pursuit of righting wrongs. Acting righteously without a shred of compensatory expectation is something that I struggle with, and I see in Green a fully realized version of such an actor. Truly remarkable. He traded what some would call the prison of privilege for a Spartan jungle existence, and in doing so, managed to unleash his immense productive and creative potential, eventually making real, tangible economic and ecological change across the land he cared for so deeply. Che Guevara once said that in a revolution, one wins or dies. Mott Green managed to do both. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week for another episode of NYC Foodways. Peace.